So welcome everyone to this fourth and final talk of our full moon clear mirror retreat at Mountain Cloud, the last day of February 2021. The full moon in February is this snow moon, named after the snow on the ground. Some North American tribes call it the hunger moon, due to the scarce food sources and hard hunting conditions of midwinter. Others named it the storm moon. As it happens, this month, all three names have borne true in Texas and elsewhere. An Arctic storm and widespread food scarcity. Just a taste of what Native and marginalized communities have long endured. The moon of many names. Dogen has a chapter in the Shobo Ginzo entitled The Moon. Short, sometimes called a colophon. Scholars say he spells the title for this chapter in an unusual way, a kind of leap in writing. Tsuki, moon. It's made up of two ideographs, tsu, meaning entire, and ki, activity. Entire activity. Ki for activity also appears in the title of the preceding chapter, undivided activity. The moon has a long-standing place of honor, of wonder in this Zen tradition, an emblem of enlightenment, awakening. The full moon is the clearest expression. For Dogen, the moon represents Zazen, silent sitting in each moment. This moment to moment sitting. It waxes and wanes, yet is always full. So today, as a way of glancing at that moon, I'd like to look at a koan that comes to us from the great master Unman or Unman. Unman's life spanned the mid-8th to mid-9th century, the violent and chaotic end of the Tang dynasty in 907, and the gap before the Song dynasty took root starting in 960. So Unman falls right. He lived 864 to 949. James Ford describes this as a period of nearly continuous warfare and horrific social upheaval. It was less than a century after the An Lushan rebellion ushered in a decade of civil war, famine, and disease so devastating that 2 out of 3 Chinese died. This period in China, famine, disease, civil war, 2 out of 3 died. I remember reading an article about this period by Joan Sutherland, where she asks the question, what do we do now we 1 in 3 who survive. Unman is born into the aftermath of this era. As Ford put it, Unman towered above this terrible time, a beacon of light within the darkness. That light shines forth, perhaps more than in any other teaching, in this koan, case 6 in the Blue Cliff Record, or Hekigan Roku. Every day is a good day. Here's the case. Unman's good day. Unman, giving instruction, said, I don't ask you about before the 15th day. Bring me a phrase about after the 15th day. Unman himself answered in the monk's stead. Every day is a good day. Every day is a good day. This springs from Unman's experience, his I. And it's addressed to each of us. A living koan. We've actually been taking it up for each of the last 3 days. That question that keeps surfacing in so many ways. Unman's story is rich, if not riveting. The early fulcrum or turning point is his experience with the very severe master Bokshu. This story is distinct to the point that it's become somewhat iconic. Here it is. Bokshu would hear the footsteps of a monk coming to Doksan, and based on that sound, discern whether or not to open the door. Unman was determined, earnest. He went to Doksan twice without being admitted, knocking on the door. Who is it? It's me. What do you want? I'm not clear about my life. I'd like the master to give me some instruction. Bokshu opened the door, took one look at Unman, and closed it again. It's a different time and a different style. Unman knocked on the door 3 days in a row. The third time, the door opens slightly, and Unman stuck his leg inside. Bokshu grabbed him and said, "Speak, speak." When Unman began to speak, Bokshu gave him a shove and said, "Too late." Then he slammed the iron gate shut, catching Unman's leg and breaking it. Breaking it badly. You know, there's that, ah! Unman immediately awakened. Everything shattered, gone. Yamada Koan comments, neither subject nor object, relative nor absolute, just ouch. Unman's great enlightenment. It was thorough. Apparently, the fracture was serious enough that it never fully healed. According to one account, for the rest of his life, Unman sat on the raised platform with his mangled leg dangling down. You know, you used to have those ton at Mountain Cloud, those raised platforms. Imagine this great master, such a fault, lack, a great master who cannot properly sit. When he was about to die, Unman assembled his monks and gave a talk that ended with this line: coming and going is continuous. I must be on my way. According to one account, he pulled his dangling leg up into full lotus posture. Snap. And died. It's said that Unman wanted nothing to do with a memorial service or posterity. His remains are buried in the room where he lived. Still, the first Song Dynasty emperor honored Unman with a name that is nearly a eulogy. Zen master, great compassionate cloud, delivering truth, vast clarity. Sort of hard to talk. Unman appears frequently in the koan collections, 5 cases in the Gateless Gate, and 18 times in the Blue Cliff Record. He became a disciple and Dharma heir of Seppo. Unman's style of teaching, terse and penetrating, was, well, you could say understandably, strict and severe. Like case 21 in the Gateless Gate. A monk asked Unman in all earnestness, "What is Buddha?" Unman said, "Kanshiketsu." Dried shit stick. Maybe that's what was in view. Sort of like now, toilet paper. That's it. Just that. Or case 77 in the Blue Cliff Record. A monk asked Unman, "What is the teaching that transcends the Buddha and ancestors?" What is the teaching that transcends the Buddha and all the ancestors? Unman said, "Kobyo." Kobyo. Sesame cake. This kobyo. an anvil falling from the sky, demolishing, knocking down everything, gone, kopyo, or just kopyo. One all-pervading, nothing at allness. At the same time, occupying everything, kopyo. Unman's teaching is also full of compassion. When the young Tozan Shushu comes to him and cannot get out of his dualistic mind despite Unman's probing, Unman says, I spare you 60 blows. Tozan goes away, wrestles with this through the night, full of doubt, and comes again the next day. Yesterday you spared me 60 blows, though I deserved them. I beg you, sir, where was I at fault? So humble, so ripe. Such a turning moment for that sense of lack. Just held open. Unman said, oh, you rice bag. Have you been wandering about like that, now west of the river, now south of the lake? The strike went right to the heart of Tozan. Have you been wandering about? The case says, at this, Tozan had great realization. What is this wandering? Absolutely nowhere to go. It's you, here. Of course, now. Right there in your seeking. Such compassion. As it is. We should take this teaching to heart when we're here all together in the Zoom Zinda without going anywhere. It's a pointer. The cases of the Gateless Gate in with Unman's teaching about this topsy-turvy, infinitely dynamic and endlessly capacious world. A monk asks Master Kempo, I wonder where the way is. Kempo picks up his stick and draws a line in the air, maybe down in front of him. Here it is. Later, a monk asks Unman to give instruction about this. Unman holds up his fan. This fan jumps up to the 33rd heaven and hits the nose of a god residing there. When a carp in the eastern sea is struck with a stick, it rains torrents as though a tray of water is overturned. You know, it's here, it's here, it's here, it's here, it's pouring. Just one functioning, total dynamism, constant change. That fan, that carp, that rain, that deva in heaven is right here. Where else could it be? So free, so open, so empty. That's so immediate. There are countless examples of the power, urgency, and dynamism in Unman's teaching. Just a couple more. A monk asked, if one's parents won't allow it, then one can't leave home. How can one leave home? Unman said, shallow. The monk said, I don't understand. Unman said, deep. Master, I am reaching for the light. Unman said, forget the light. Give me the reaching. The thing you seek is right there in your searching. Forget the light. Give me the reaching. Show me that. Nothing outside it. Or there's this saying from Unman, Mr. Zhang drinks the wine and Mr. Li gets drunk. You take a sip and my thirst is quenched. And just one more. Unman said to the congregation, every day you come and go asking endless questions. If you were crossing a river, how would you do so? A longtime resident of the monastery responded, step. Unman was highly pleased with this answer. How do we approach this deepest of koans? How enter the current of every day is a good day? Step. Unman, giving instructions, said, I don't ask about before the 15th day. Bring me a phrase about after the 15th day. He himself answered, every day is a good day. Earlier this week, I mentioned to a Dharma friend that we were heading into session to retreat, and that I might venture to take up this case. My friend said, that's easy. Just hold up the koan alongside the day's newspaper. Half a million COVID deaths surpassed, the number thought to be vastly undercounted, just in this country. Every day is a good day. Famine, war, no access to the vaccine in countries all around the world. Every day is a good day. Greed, anger, and ignorance playing out in more contexts than we can count. Every day is a good day. The tragedies and troubles closest to home, nearest to our hearts, the questions without answers. Every day is a good day. This is a koan, not a platitude. It's a presentation of the living fact. Unman says he's not asking about the days leading up to the 15th, likely a reference to the full moon. Speak a word, a phrase about this Saha world, this conditioned world where we live and die and do what we can to find meaning and well-being. Speak that phrase after the full moon. What can be said about this achingly beautiful, desperately broken world when awakening illumines it? This awake world, how to convey it? Unman doesn't wait for the monks to respond. He gives the answer on their behalf. Every day is a good day. Unman is obviously not talking about good as opposed to bad. That divide is nowhere to be found in this awake world. Neither is any divide, not the slightest gap. No gate, no boundary. So how then can we enter? How do we become Unman's phrase? Be the koan. There's really only one way in. The heart of compassion. Your very own heart. To fall into that boundless heart without remain. Our sense of separate self has to go. That little self, that I, me, mine, it has to go. This sounds like we have to excise some part of ourselves, like Eka standing in the snow and cutting off his arm, offering it to Bodhidharma. There may be a profound sense of falling away, whole world collapsing. But it may also happen that you simply see yourself for what it is, that small self. You see through it. And the great transparency of who you truly are may just come to light. Even that delusive separate self, just as it is entirely empty. What are we holding on to? It's not there. Such freedom. Such a relief. And out of that freedom, compassion. Some years ago, a number of years ago, I was, yet again having this remarkable opportunity to practice in Japan with Ryan Roshi. It was, a rare time when he would sit with us every morning and every night and offer Dogen, this small group. And I came to this koan, having been through all of the koans at least once with other teachers. And as the circumstances worked out, I got a cold, some kind of bug, and my dear friends went off to Kamakura to visit Mrs. Yamada, Oksama, and it just didn't make sense for me to go. And so there I was alone, just resting, but also sitting on this koan. And so when I had the chance to go see the Roshi, I really thought, I've got this. That should always be a warning. I had really come to a place of touching a nub of pathos in my circle of experience, It was somehow in the sitting, my nephew, Gabriel, this beautiful, wonderful young man who was stricken with MS at 18, just months after he told me on his 18th birthday, now my life can begin. And 6 months later, he was paralyzed. And over the years, little by little, he lost every faculty, everything, every ability. And in the end, finally, the ability to breathe. So with this in heart, mind, I went in and faced the Roshi. And he said, this is about you. Go and sit some more. And I did sit and sit. And somehow, in the course of just plunging into this koan, this heart, this boundless heart, the pain of the whole world came rushing in. When I finally got to see the Roshi again, nobody else was around. Sitting on the mat outside the door, I just began to weep. And there was nothing to do but to go in and bow and face him. And that had never happened. I was just unable to speak. Just the magnitude of this body of suffering. And he leaned in so close. I finally said, all this pain, and yet you can still honestly say, every day's a good day. I think I said, somehow there's this joy. It's not other. It can't be, not a hair's breadth, not a sliver. It's just this one body. And somehow there's this absolutely irrepressible joy. Within the tradition around levels of awakening, there's a vein of teaching that parses out stages, and I think it's the next to last stage where even joy disappears. This unconditional joy that is not in the least contingent on circumstances or on any experience. In a fourth, according to some tradition, the final level, that joy disappears, but equanimity and happiness remain. That's how it's named. I can safely say I am not there yet, if ever. How do you put it? This computer, this joy, this cushion, this sound, this book, this stick, this moment with everything all of us, each of us is experiencing. The whole gamut still. There is something that is completely undisturbed in this great constancy of change. There are masters and teachers who light the way. Sekito Shutu is among them, the 8th century master and author of the Song of the Grass Hut I so often quote. He also wrote The Identity of Relative and Absolute. I think that's in the Mountain Cloud Chanting book. Sekito awakened on reading a passage by a 4th century Chinese philosopher. It's short, here it is. And this is very early writing. The ultimate person is empty and hollow. He has no form. Yet of the myriad things, there is none that is not his own making. Who can understand myriad things as oneself? Only a sage. Probably other translations for that. But thereupon, Shutu said, a sage has no self, yet there is nothing that is not himself. Speaking for himself. I would say herself. Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj expressed this in more contemporary language in that popular book, I Am That. We know this quote, it's so lovely. When I look inside and see that I am nothing, that is wisdom. When I look outside and see that I am everything, that is love. Sekito got this to the core. Along with his writings, there's a record of a comment that Ryo Roshi often mentions. It made such a strong impression. Sekito said, even if I fall into the deepest hell, I will not cry out for help. One world, one boundlessness one body. If there is suffering, it cannot be separate from me. Every day is a good day. Victor Lowe was a Franciscan priest who helped to establish Sambo Zen Center that continues to thrive at a monastery in Dietfurt. Father Victor was a prisoner in an internment camp during the war. People died. People died every day, he said. Some starved. Through his relationship with Father LaSalle, Sambo Zen teacher, Father Victor met Ryon Roshi one time and had Dogen. Roshi told that Father Victor had said, very briefly, talked about his time in the camp, the darkness. And Father Victor said, there was not one day when I wasn't happy. Again, to the heart of it. He's immersed. Every day is a good day. Sekito wrote, within darkness there is light, but don't look for that light. Within light there is darkness, but do not try to understand that darkness. Darkness and light are a pair, like the foot before and the foot behind in walking. He also wrote that beautiful last stanza to the Song of the Grass Hut. Let go of hundreds of years and relax completely. Open your hands and walk innocent. Thousands of words, myriad interpretations are only to free you from obstructions. If you want to know the undying person in the hut, don't separate from this skin bag here and now. So I'm just about done. I want to mention one more point. Some readings of this koan take Unman's question in a different direction. I'm not asking about the days leading up to the 15th. Tell me a phrase about the days after the 15th. What if he's saying, forget about the past? All those stories, all those worries, all that identity. Where is it now? What if now is all there is? What if this moment is complete, lacking nothing, contingent on nothing? You could say that's reading more from a practice perspective, but is it? If we come home to this moment, nothing but this, all of this, the infinite horizon of this one empty, totally replete now, one heart without the slightest seeing. There's no explaining it, no knowing, but gratitude wells up. Maybe joy, humility, gratitude, and this unspeakable wonder want to say, every day is a good day. So thank you for your practice. Thank you for this shared practice.